So my name's Pam Rowland, and this is Sherry Notaboom, and we are the directors of the Center of Excellence. And the Center of Excellence is in Information Systems is a honors minor. We're going to talk more about that at the end for you students that are interested. We have some scholarship opportunities for you. And we just want to thank you for coming to the first of our speaker series. Well, our next speaker will be in January, so you can be watching for that. I'm going to turn the mic over to Mark, and he's going to make an introduction here.
Thanks, everybody. My name is Mark Johnston. I'm the Vice President for Advancement at Dakota State University. Been here about 8 or 9 months now, but the most important job I have in my life is I'm the president of the Matt Jensen fan club. You know, a lot of you have probably seen the website www.rockstar.com. That's dedicated to my friend Matt Jensen. I have been friends with Matt for a long time. Colleagues for a number of years. I've learned more than I'll ever be able to repay him from Matt's creativity, Matt's energy, Matt's ability to communicate complex topics, chunk them down into very, very usable forms. He's a husband, he's a father, he's a hunter, he's a CEO, and he's one of the most creative guys I've ever met in my life. If I had to draw a picture, a word picture of Matt, I would encapsulate it as professional trust, because he is the consummate professional, and I and a number of people that I know trust him implicitly in a lot of parts of our lives, and I'm just so honored to have Matt here, to be a part of the DSU family, to lead off in this inaugural series. So ladies and gentlemen, please, I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Matt Jensen.
Thanks, Mark. That's humbling, to say the least. So we've got a lot of faculty and students here. We've got staff here as well, and I want to thank everybody for, one, the invitation, and two, for just giving up a little bit of time to talk about what is a fun and important topic. But before we get into any of that, within moments of walking into this building, looked up into your beautiful conference room in the sky here, and first of all, I just felt cooler walking in here because it's cool. I mean, I thought I should lose my tie, and I thought I should have jeans on and probably cowboy boots. Still have the pocket square, of course, but it just feels like a cool kind of Silicon Valley place, and you should be very proud of it, and I'm sure you are. But part of the thing that we study in experience design is what about the place is different than the space, because space is just the glass and the steel and the concrete, right? But the sense of place is what you get when you darken the door with people who are ultimately worthy of it. And so for the people who have come up with this series, it's a series that's meant to inspire and challenge you to kind of lift the school to a new level. For the people who are planning the future of it, there's a new energy about your campus that's unlike anything that I've ever experienced. And I look back a couple of decades, maybe even more than a couple of decades, to think of when I was searching for schools and how different it would be now, knowing what you're on the brink of and what you're doing already. But I'll start with that, and then to say who I saw in the conference room, because in just one foul swoop, I saw 3 mentors, right? One for the early part of my life that was on the college campus I attended. One who was in the kind of median part of my life, and one who mentored me just as recently as last year, earlier this year even, to give me some professional development tips. And if you don't hear anything else from today's conversation, as a student, as a staff member, and as a faculty member, the gift that I would give you is, if you don't have people who are giving you the gift of feedback, honest, loving feedback, you can't progress. You won't progress, whether it's in your own life, your personal life, your family life, your children's life. My wife just gave me the gift of feedback this morning because she works in a clinic, and she sometimes works late hours, and she said, you know, you'll hear more from your girls at night if you don't put them to bed when you've got your phone with you, right? Because they just love to talk at night. Now, part of me could say, I don't know if you know this, wife, but I'm kind of a big deal. I've got an MBA. So clearly I need to be on my phone at night. That's not the right kind of response. So somebody has to be in my life that's going to give me that kind of challenge. And so surround yourself with people like that. A lot of them are in this room. And if you have the gift of Dick Hansen, Mark, or Dave, as being your mentors, it will be a gift that gives to you professionally and personally for the rest of your lives. So today we're going to talk about experiences and not things. This is gaining in traction across the world because we know that people are spending their hard-earned dollars on things that they can immerse themselves experientially, and they are pushing away a closet full of stuff. You don't have to go very far to hear things like Stuffication, which is a new book, right? Or know that people are investing heavily in summer concert series or Burning Man festivals or going off to another campus to learn for a semester or a year or interchanging experiences professionally. So people are into immersive experiences in a way that's never been in our economy before. So we're going to talk about that. But as a backdrop to learning about experiences, not things, is the place that I call home professionally, and that's Vance Thompson Vision in Sioux Falls. Now, Vance Thompson Vision, a lot of you know, we do laser vision correction surgery, we do cataract surgery, glaucoma surgery. That's the easy part to talk about. We'll be getting on a flight here 30 minutes after I leave here to go to New Orleans to train doctors from all over the world on how to do it the way we do in Sioux Falls. Now, we do that with the same tenets that you hold true here. We invest heavily in research and technology. We go overseas to make sure that the things that are going to be perfected and practiced have every fighting chance of getting through an FDA-monitored clinical trial. And then we open that up to the market at large, both domestically and outside the U.S. And it's just right down the street. And just like your national and international reputation is growing in computer services and web services and IT, that's the kind of reputation we like to have as well. But the thing that we know deep down is that nobody's actually interested in what we do. Nobody woke up today and said, you know, I think that what would make me happy is if someone takes a laser to my eye. No one talks like that. And so what are they actually interested in? Well, they're interested in what the outcome is afterwards. They're interested in reading to their kids at night. They're interested in waking up in the morning without glasses or contacts, you know, to deliver a baby in my wife's case, or to see their newborn in their crib, or those very first moments without having to scrounge for their glasses. And so we learn about customer experience design through the biggest experiment we've ever had as a team at Vance Thompson Vision, and that's our building with the way we've used customer experience preferences at every stage throughout the process. And I just thought it'd be helpful to put their names and photos up there because they've invested heavily in the success of that design, and they work really hard day in and day out to make sure it's not only that way for our patients, but it's that way for the team members who are ultimately worthy of darkening that door every day as well. And it seemed to stick. It's a different way of looking at healthcare in general. What we know from healthcare and the financial services world in general is that those are the two categories in domestic production that have the most customer intelligence. You know what I mean when I say customer intelligence? It means the stuff that we give in exchange for a business transaction. So when I go into a healthcare experience, I have to give them my name, my spouse's name, my insurance, my date of birth, my weight, my real weight, my next of kin, my emergency contacts, my blood type. You know, they can look up my credit scores to know if I'm able to pay or not. All this stuff is used just upon entry. I haven't even gotten back to a nurse or a doctor yet. And we use almost none of that to make the experience better. So you go into most practices, most dentistry offices, most podiatrists today, and you're the 10:30 appointment, and you stand there and you say, Matt Jensen, and they say, date of birth? There's no confirmation of like your real, you know, your name. Their first question is date of birth, not good morning. And you say November 8th, 1978. And they say, last name, insurance, whatever the next question is, kind of on the profile sheet. And they will have totally missed that I just mentioned that my date of birth is today. And we can even pause there and we wonder if, like, Why the pause on their end? And we step back expecting balloons or streamers or something because they've got that information now and they're looking at a computer screen that says it's November 8th, and I just told them my birthday and they missed it. And that's the kind of thing that we give people in business all the time, that customer intelligence, and especially in healthcare, and especially in the financial industry. We use none of it to make the experience better. And the provocation is, what would happen differently if we did? What if we did do it differently and use that to make the experience better? And so this isn't a lecture where we're just going to talk at you. We're going to make sure that there's time at the end to afford you some question time, and I'll do my best to answer them or make something up. And then, but with more, it's because we're going to leave these slides with you, and I think some of you are recording these things as well. Mostly, we want to just transfer this knowledge and have it be kind of a shared brain experience. And we want to get a few things out of the way first. When people talk about staging experiences instead of purchasing things, they're always worried about ROI. So if we decide to be an experience-based company rather than a traditional, Main Street kind of company that's just retail or B2B or what have you, how much is this going to cost me? What's the ROI? The return on investment or the return on experience. And that's where we want to help you clear some barriers. Sometimes you have to clear a barrier before you can get a good view of what's really in front of you. So experiences can cost a lot. They can be saved up for, a la the family vacation, right? The honeymoon, those are big experiences. But they don't have to be big, expensive experiences. And so I'll share a story of my family. This is my wife's family visited Hawaii for her father's work. This is now a decade and a half ago, and we share this story in every one of these talks all over the country. And you'll see why that's so important in just a moment. So they travel around the big island of Hawaii. They're staying at a hotel called the Halekulani. Her sister's not feeling well at the end of the day. They're going down to dinner at the main hotel restaurant. And the sister goes up to have dinner in her room and then go to bed. She orders a sandwich. It's a decent sandwich. She talks the next day about how much she liked it, but her sister's always been kind of picky. And so, she doesn't eat her crust. And so she doesn't eat her crust. She doesn't finish her pickle. That's going to come up later. The next day, they all go out as a family. They had a great experience in the restaurant, great experience in the in-room dining. They're now touring the rest of the island. They come back to that hotel, make a plan for dinner. We're going to go out tonight, not stay at the hotel. They decide to go somewhere else, and her sister's not feeling well again. Goes back up to do the in-room dining, orders the same sandwich. Here's what the staff did with her sandwich. No, there's giggles. Right, and we get it, right? Because there's a little wink here. There's a little wink here from a busing staff and a chef and something in a concierge service, something somewhere, something that they input somewhere. They collected that intelligence that she had on her tray outside her room to make her experience better the very next day. Now, what'd that cost them? Nothing. Nothing, but it's so remarkable. I can't tell you a single Halekulani ad I've seen or social media campaign, right? But this story gets told and retold in our family's lore, throughout all of the cousins, all of the talks we give, as something that we all compare new Ritz-Carlton experiences, new hotel experiences to the Halekulani and the crust being cut off by their staff. So it doesn't take any extra time. It doesn't take any extra technology. It doesn't cost anything extra. That can really be a signature moment in customer experience design. So here's our agenda today. We're going to talk about how consumers have changed, especially in the last couple of decades. We're going to talk about how people are investing in experiences, not things. And then we're going to talk about how important it is to have a team mindset. So here we go. Let's talk about how our consumers have changed. So the backdrop for a lot of these things is a guest speaker we just had in Sioux Falls named John DeJulius. Now, John DeJulius runs a salon and spa chain in Cleveland, Ohio. And in his salons and spas, they charge an average of $110 per haircut. That's men and women. That's men and women. So I mean, if I pay $110 for a haircut, clearly I'm getting ripped off. right? But a lot of women have pretty ordinary haircuts as well, and that's the average. So there's a lot more, and that's not with color or anything like that. That's just because of the experience. And he says, if we're charging you $110 for your haircut, we're ripping you off. Because what people are really coming in for is the identity refreshment, the encouragement, the customer experience, and these books unpack how exactly they do that. One of the first premises that's important to understand is that they say that you can't be experientially excellent until you're operationally excellent. And so in an office like ours, what that means is we can't talk about all the great experiences we have. You can't talk about all the great experiences you have on campus and how great your faculty is and how amazing your facilities are if when people are walking across campus, the light poles are on their side from a party last night, or there's garbage blowing around from a dumpster that tipped over. Operational excellence supersedes experiential excellence. So if you talk about how great it is and how safe of an environment it is, but there's dark lit areas or there's light poles that's down that signify something contrary to what you just told prospective students or existing students, that dissonance won't resonate, and they'll think that what you're saying is untrue or you're an imposter. And so these books help unpack what are all those things and what are the cues that we respond to viscerally to make those judgments of a business. Well, what he says in one of these books is that we have 1/20th the human interactions that we had just 20 years ago. 1/20th the human interactions we had just 20 years ago. Now, why might that be? Yep, right, because of the phones, right. And I wasn't calling on her because she was texting right now, right? No, it was off. Good, clear. Hand check. Okay, so because of mobile technology, because of digital technology, we're typically eyes down, blue light up, rather than right in the moment of every day. So let's talk about how this manifests itself in business. I remember when I was in school, one of the coolest places to study was at Starbucks, right? Because it was hustling and bustling, you were surrounded by books, so clearly something was going to get transferred by way of knowledge. And I love how there's actually a line outside of Barnes & Noble in this image. This is a recent Barnes & Noble image from their website. My question is, when was the last time you saw a line anywhere at a bookstore? Maybe if there was a book signing, but not for the book itself. A book signing, now that's experiential, but the book itself is a thing, it's a product, it's commoditized. Okay, so now where do people buy their books? Amazon, right? If I order it today, not only will it be delivered to my house by tomorrow, but it'll probably be printed today. A lot of the new books that are coming out are printed just in time. There's no inventory anywhere. So self-published books are being done one at a time in the thousands, individual sales, one-to-one, less than $10. It's totally shifting the way publishing houses are having to think about their business model. How else do we have 1/20th the human interactions we once had? We used to learn in a classroom like this. A lot of times we still do. One of the most profitable places in higher education is online education. Right, especially for a campus like this, where a lot of the technology that you have, a lot of the classes that you're teaching have applications to lend themselves, maybe more than a philosophy class might, to an online application. Right, and that's why within a couple years of its existence, Phoenix University suddenly is sponsoring an NFL stadium. Clearly there's money to be made there. But what's missing out from that authentic, in real time, breathing the same air, user, student experience than on an online course? The other thing that's growing at a faster rate than it ever has in our country's history is homeschooling, which isn't so much an indication about profitability as much as it's saying, no, it's a customization question. I don't want my kids to be taught the way all kids are taught. I want them only to receive the information I want them to receive, when I want them to receive it, efficiently, uniquely for my children, right? So those words are going to come up again later when we talk about customization. Remember when we used to go to movies? We've been to one movie this whole year as a family, and it was as a family, and one last year. So now what do we do for our movies? Netflix, we watch them at home. It's a subscription model service, and we go to our mailbox every month to get our 3 DVDs, right? No, we don't even have to go to our mailbox anymore. It just goes through our, gaming system or whatever system we're using. And so we don't have to go to the mailbox. We don't have to say hello to the mailman. We don't have to talk to another person as long as we live. As a little aside, one of the biggest mergers that was missed when I was growing up is that Domino's Pizza and Blockbuster didn't do some kind of joint venture. Right? Because everybody was going to the video store and then going home and calling Domino's to deliver pizza to their house. Somebody should have figured that out a long time ago, and those companies would probably still be doing a lot better today, Blockbuster in particular. Okay, so remember when we used to go to the bank? I've purchased 3 homes in the last 10 years, and never have I actually entered the bank. There were some signatures that had to take place at a title company, but we never had to go into a bank. And we just went into a Sioux Falls bank as a customer, kind of as a learning excursion as part of our team. And they had just opened up, and they still had the velvet ropes, right, going through their kind of atrium area, like they're expecting a crowd. Like they're actually going to have to worry about crowd control in the teller line. And I just thought, wow, that's crazy that that's still a thing. So the place is being designed around an old model where people are still using the bank in an old-fashioned way. And now we know that people are doing that online with their mobile phones. They're shutting off their cards by flicking a switch. It's all being used in a different fashion today. So we have 1/20th the human interactions we had just 20 years ago. But what we also know is if we take a look at least our customers, when we serve mostly an aging population for the majority of our work, what we know from our studies there is that in the past 20 years, not only do we have 1/20th the human interactions, loneliness has doubled. Loneliness has doubled in a category that Forbes magazine and now others are calling device-olation. So this is a new form of depression where it's solely based on comparing yourselves to others as found in social media, right? As found with a constant 24-hour news cycle, and it just spins people down and down and down because they're not getting real, authentic human interactions in an immersive fashion and in an emotive fashion, the way we as humans need that kind of feedback in such a way where loneliness is a real issue. So what does this all mean? Well, what it means is that when people come in to our center, and we have a couple hundred patients come in every single day, and they're coming from Mobridge and Fargo, North Dakota, and they're coming from Rapid and Kansas City all the way to Sioux Falls. And if we're not careful, we'll treat them like a 2 o'clock appointment on Wednesday. And we'll say, is my second patient ready for the afternoon? And we'll refer to them as our second patient, or our 2 o'clock. Is my 2 o'clock here? When what they're really counting on is they're in Sioux Falls from Mobridge saying, I want to see that building with the lights on it, and I want to see the new Costco. And then my only other social interaction this week is with my bridge club or my church group, ladies, and I'm going to give them a report on those 2 things. And if we refer to them as the 2 o'clock appointment, we steal something in that interaction that they're counting on more than ever from us that they're not going to get from anywhere else. Now, a lot of places, frankly, Costco does a pretty good job, but their competitor, Sam's Club, a lot of these retail places, they don't even look up anymore. You don't even have to check yourself out anymore, or check out with a checkout person anymore. Self-checkout, no talking, right? So people are walking around in great need of that emotive response for us to connect with them, and we're giving them as an industry in healthcare, in the financial world, we're giving them none of that. We're holding up the light in front of them that says, if the light is blinking, I'm on the phone, please wait in line, please stand back here, please turn off your cell phone, please sit quietly, please don't use your phone in here, we'll get to you when we're ready, we're keeping patients in inventory. All these relics of conversations that are from past industries really lends itself to a consumer that's really just longing for more meaningful interactions, right? So 1/20th the human interactions we had just 20 years ago, and we serve people who are starving. Now, we might just think that this is for the senior population, but it's actually, this is all of us, right? We all want more authentic experiences and authentic feedback day in and day out. So that's our first point, is that our consumer mindset has changed for all generations. Our second point is that people are investing in experiences and not things. So let's unpack what that looks like. This is a friend of mine named Jim Gilmore, and in 1999, Jim Gilmore and his business partner, Joe Pine, wrote a book called The Experience Economy. And in 1999, on the cover of that book, by the way, it was published by Harvard Business Press. It was republished in 2009 with new and fresh examples that have happened just in the decade since that corroborated their initial findings from their studies. But the basic premise is this, is that goods and services are no longer enough. People are going to invest more heavily in experiences, and we'll unpack that in just a moment. But if you look at the title of the book, and if your vision's as good as mine, you can see what it says. It says, work is theater and every business is stage. See, I worked that little plug-in for my business right there. Work is theater and every business a stage. Now, I don't know how many of you are English type majors or writers here on campus, but the word is what kind of word? It's the use of what? It's a verb. But it's not simile, right? Simile would be work is like theater, or work is as theater. This says work is theater, and every business a stage. So what does that mean? Well, it means that on Wednesday morning, when I get up and go to work, I'm probably going to wear something that looks a lot like this. But if you saw me getting up for my family on Saturday, I would have a much different wardrobe on, much different uniform, much different costume, right? And the way our business flows and the way your business flows here and this campus is a business, is there certain things that we do. We block our performances, we walk a certain way. These chairs, I'll bet, I'm not sure because I wasn't in here prior to today, but I'll bet they're not normally set this way, right? It's set as a stage to look this way for today's event. The business is a stage. And so if we look at our business like that, then we will naturally rehearse. We will role play. We'll say that there's certain lines that we give at certain times. We answer the phone a certain way. We want to greet people a certain way. We want to do things a certain way. And that's what they mean by every business being a stage. And if business is staged, that means certain things have to be done a certain way for it to be a proper kind of production. And what they found is that a lot of businesses that were doing amazingly well and had rapid growth in the late 90s were businesses that were staging these things in a much different fashion than ever. So we're going to take our business hats off for a second and put on our econ hats, and I'm going to show you exactly what the premise is behind their model, and it's called the progression of economic value. Now, because everybody in the room knows that I'm not an economist and I'm, if anything, just a marketing hack, we're going to go through this just kind of at 50,000 feet. The premise behind their whole book is the progression of economic value, and it works in this form and fashion. Moving from left to right is time, and working from down to up, or the y-axis is money. And so if you look back in time, a couple hundred years, we were an agrarian-based economy. Okay, people didn't go to the local mercantile and say, how many turnips can I get for $5? They'd go to the local mercantile, and if you remember right up the road in DeSmet, if you think of Laura Ingalls Wilder in the television show, they'd go to Olson's, right, and they'd say, how many turnips can I get for a dozen eggs? It was all exchange-based. It was things that were naturally extracted from the earth, and they would see how much they could trade for other things that they valued. And it's where most of the new wealth was created in our country, you know, a couple hundred years ago. And so that's a commodities-based market. You can see in black there was the agrarian economy, and the verb used to describe it is that the major product in that category was extracted. Now, to get up the progression of economic value, you take a bunch of commodities, you put them together, and you get to the next realm of the progression of economic value, and that's goods. So you take a bunch of natural things that are extracted. You take aluminum, and you take water, and you take apples, and you take some sugar, and you mash it up together, and you put them in tin, you know, and you put them in aluminum cans, and suddenly you've got applesauce. You know, and you think of that in seas of inventory in a warehouse. We know from the goods economy, otherwise known as the industrial economy, that we wanted it to be as uniform as possible, right? Because we wanted to have production lines and standardization. And Henry Ford said something to the effect of, I'll make you whatever color Model T you want so long as it's black, right? So limited customization, high output, and we can all remember the black and white films of ships going off to war or items coming off the line, right, in the 20s and 30s in the kind of whole industrial revolution. So we shifted from an agrarian economy to an industrial economy. The verb used to describe it is that goods are made, and they're made from a collection of commodities. Okay, we'll keep going. The natural input for the services economy then is a bunch of goods put together from the industrial economy. By the way, it's not like these economies don't exist anymore. The industrial economy still exists, the agrarian economy still exists, especially here. It's just, it's not where most of the new wealth of our country comes from now. So there is a shift of where most of the new wealth comes from that signifies each change. So people are coming back from the World War II. They were just coming off the Industrial Revolution. They're saying, you know, I've worked hard, I've served my country, and it's okay for somebody to deliver milk to my home. I don't need to go to work and milk my own cow. I don't need to go to work and make my own bread. I don't need to go to work and iron my own shirt. Some of these things can be a delivery kind of service. And anytime the word delivery is used, it's a service economy relic. Okay, so all these goods were combined together. You know, you took the applesauce, you put it on a truck, you filled it with gasoline, you brought it to people's home. We've got an applesauce delivery market, right? And that's probably better served for eggs and milk. So that's the middle of the service economy, and services are delivered. Now you take a bunch of services and you wrap them together, and this is now early to mid-90s. And you take all those different things and you stage them properly and you theme it, and suddenly we're right in the middle of the experience economy. And what they found, and this was my first job, what they found is that this was starting to happen about 1994, 95, 96, where right down the street, people would buy a hamburger at McDonald's for 59 cents, right? Service economy model. Anything that's fast food is a service economy model. And then a block away in Sioux Falls at TGI Fridays, my first job, we're selling hamburgers, cheeseburgers for $10.59, right? And there's a line going out into the parking lot. And the Harlem Globetrotters come there for dinner. And I've got a fake name and a funny hat. And I'm running, you know, literally sprinting down the aisle, just being crazy, because that was part of the whole motif and theme of the place. So what was it that within a block, somebody's willing to pay, you know, nearly 20 times more for the same thing? Well, that's the progression of economic value at work, right? In its natural form, in the commodities form, that'd be beef, right? That'd be bread. And then you move up to progression of economic value to the experience economy version of that. And it's TGI Fridays and Rainforest Cafe and all the different theming that happened in the late 90s. And what they found is that people would run through walls to have things be more experiential than not. So let's just unpack this and look at what we mean by this in a real life example that we all experience every day. At least I did when I was in college. Let's look at the coffee bean. So the commodities version of the coffee bean, you can go to the Chicago Board of Trade, purchase enough coffee to make 1 cup of coffee, and it'll cost about 1 to 2 cents. Now that's not a really efficient way to purchase coffee on the Chicago Board of Trade, but that's the economic relevance of that. The goods economy version of it, the industrial economy version of it, is you go to Hy-Vee or your local grocer, you see a canister of coffee, Folgers, Maxwell House, whatever. It costs 19 to 21 cents for that same cup of coffee. Okay, so now we're going up in economic output. The service economy model, this is when we go to Perkins or Denny's or your local diner and they have table service. Right? They'll come right to your table, and for $1.19, they'll keep your cup full for the hour and a half that you spend there, or if you're in college, 4 or 5 hours while you're studying. Okay? What is the quintessential example of the coffee bean in the experience economy? Starbucks. Now, if you look at that depiction, it's not just expensive coffee, right? The language is all different. There's a whole way of ordering it. There's I don't even remember the names. There's venti. There's grande, and then there's whatever the small one is that nobody orders. The venti actually doesn't mean big. I mean, it means the biggest. I always find it confusing because I want the grande, and that sounds like it should be the largest. All this deliberation only to talk about the script that they have, right? My wife orders her coffee a certain way. Vance actually orders the same exact coffee, but orders it a completely different way. So the staff not only has to have their own set of language, They have to be able to interpret it from different dialects. All of this for the sale of coffee. Now, if you look at it, it's $4 for what was 1 to 2 cents down at the bottom of the progression of economic value. But if you've seen the television show Friends in the early 90s that helped establish Starbucks as a place to go, what they're really doing at Central Perk, the coffee shop in the television show, and what we're really doing at Starbucks, is we're really paying for the same, 19 to 21 cent cup of coffee or 1 to 2 cent cup of coffee, and then we're paying $3 for rent. Because it's become a place that we're willing to do business instead of having an office, or we're willing to have a book club there instead of meeting at my home and having everybody step on the Legos or wake up my kids, or you see what I'm saying? And so all of that moves the progression of economic value up, where it's mysterious what we're actually selling at that point. Because it's far more than just the product. Coffee is the easy part. Everything around it is the hard part. And that's why Starbucks, for a lot of years, really struggled when they put the deployment of Starbucks in grocery stores. They had to kind of stop their whole business. They closed for a day to relook at how they were going to do their approach in places that didn't have brick and mortar like their regular stores did, because they weren't able to be as profitable and experiential as when folks came in and actually sat for a time. As proof positive that people's are more impressed with the experience at Starbucks than the product itself, you know what the #1 concern at a Starbucks location is today, according to their own research last year? What's that? Wi-Fi. It's good. It's good. Where can I plug in my laptop? Right. Nothing to do with the product, nothing to do with what they're actually purchasing, but a lot to do with the whole experience design. So their whole place is set up to be an open workspace much like this. This would be a great Starbucks, right? And to be honest, there's a bank in Sioux Falls that modeled itself after ING Cafe. ING is a bank out of Amsterdam, and they opened 19 stores in the United States. Times Square, downtown Philadelphia, downtown Cleveland, some great places like that. I think that's the only time in history Times Square and downtown Cleveland have been compared as great places. But it's a coffee shop first, so on one billboard, and when you walk in, on one board, there's all the coffees you can have, all the treats. And then on the next board is your CD rates, your index money market rates, your home loan rates, all these different things. And all of the baristas are trained on how to be consumer bankers. And so so they'll come up and you'll order coffee and they'll charge you Starbucks-like prices, okay? And then when you ask about a rate, they'll take off the apron and they'll come around and they'll say, well, let's just sit and talk, do a little business. And then you'll do some business and then you'll leave. And it's the only bake guy found that actually could have used the velvet ropes because there was a line, like at any Starbucks. So they're called ING Cafe. It's worth looking up later because it's a fascinating model on how people are willing to invest in experiences, not things, as our businesses. So that's how the progression of economic value works. Now, very literally, the way you get up the progression of economic value is through customization. How are we going to make our offering unique to you and make the one that's for you just unique to you, and have the one for you be just unique to you, and have nothing created extra by way of waste for anyone? A definition we use for the experience economy is efficiently serving our customers uniquely. Efficient and unique are things that battle one another, because as companies grow, as this campus grows, a natural desire will be, how do we standardize this? We're growing so quickly, we better start standardizing. And what starts to happen is you start to commoditize. So we now make it standard for you and standard for you and standard for you in such a way where we can no longer have it be unique and efficient at the same time. So that battle, that tension is where experience design has to be. How do we make it just special for you so you're a market of one? So efficiently serving our customers uniquely. So that's kind of heady, right? We were talking about experience design, and now we got into econ, and we glazed over a little bit, and then there was a jolt of caffeine. But so is this relevant? Is it a thing? Is it really something that's out there? Well, for a while when we were learning about this, and when we first read the book, we reached out to the book authors and became friends with Jim Gilmore and Joe Pine, and we went and got certified by them on to be able to talk the way we do and understand it. And we attend a training every year with them to see how it's changed in the past year. And in 2009, right before their second book came out, the second version of their book, Time magazine said that the experience economy model, their book and their concepts, are idea number 7 of 10 that can bring us out of a down economy. And if you were around or were paying attention between late 2007 to 2010, the markets were terrifying, right? This was a downtime. And so this whole notion of people investing in experiences, not things, Time magazine said this is one way out, is to start to encourage businesses to pay attention to this. And we're going to find some actually did. And that's when in our mind this stopped being fringe, this stopped being kind of heady economics by Harvard Business Review, and it started to be something that we needed to learn how to implement within our own business. Then just last year, February of 2016, so a little bit more than a year ago, Time magazine came out with a follow-up article. Now this was very literally about an article about Uber, about rideshare programs like Lyft, Uber, and also Airbnb. Also some cost-sharing online applications like Rent the Runway, where people can just get a certain amount of clothing allotments per month, right? Or Bag, Borrow, and Steal, where you can get a purse per month and then send it back. So this whole notion of crowdsourcing and keeping your own personal inventory low in order to get only what you want, only when you want it, and just-in-time inventory for your own personal life, is what drove this article. And what they said throughout this article is the sharing economy, which is what we call where we are now, is really just the experience economy. That's what they said. Sharing economy is just really the experience economy. And so why would you have a perfect stranger, drive you around? Why would you have a perfect stranger host you in their home? That customization of only what you want, only when you want it, only, right at that moment, is the baseline of the experience economy. So one of the companies that we studied hard was a hotelier in the middle of the San Francisco Bay Area. It's called Joie de Vie Hotels. And they had 28 hotels all around San Francisco, all of them based on magazines. And what they would find is over time, over the last 15 years, is they would create a little boutique hotel that was mimicked after Rolling Stones magazine or mimicked after Dwell magazine, that it would start to attract that kind of clientele for identity refreshment. And that they could start to slide how they would charge for them based on how well they were connecting with those individuals. So what the Industrial Revolution taught us is that when people are looking for a hotel, they're looking for a bed, right? What the experience economy tells us is when people are looking for a hotel, they're looking for themselves. They're looking for a place that allows them to be more who they think they are in a way that's refreshing to their identity. And from that gentleman sold his company and now is the chief experience officer for a company called Airbnb. Now, if you look up Airbnb right now on Google, you'll find that they're valued at $30 billion. Okay? Google tried to buy them a while back for a lot less. Hilton Properties today is valued at $13 billion, but Hilton is totally leveraged by debt. It's because they've got properties all over the place. They're playing the financing game, right? Airbnb owns nothing, right? They're leveraging everybody else's inventory. Inventory is a relic of the Industrial Revolution. By the way, inventory in the Industrial Revolution, if you lay that and apply it towards the financial firms and the healthcare firms, we call that waiting rooms, right? And we as consumers, we hate being inventory. We don't want to be told that we're next, or that we're third, or we're fourth, or we're on deck. We want that efficient uniqueness, right in line without delay, just like in every other consumer experience. So we all know that at Airbnb, people are putting their own lofts or their own vacation homes or their own things up online for people to rent. And we know how that works, but it's the first actual model where through the roof, profitability soars when things are customized to consumer preferences that way. And the question is when, that's behind all this, is when given the option, will people really choose things that are more experiential than not? We'll use the stairs than the escalator if it was more experiential. So whether it's down here, whether it's, lo-fi like that, or whether it's using a CRM to customize an experience, in an office-based environment or a B2B organization, people naturally select things that are more experiential than not. And using the example of Airbnb from before, they're onto this too. Within the last 12 months, they just opened, Chip Conley, who's in charge of the customer experience there, just launched Airbnb experiences. So not just that you go to San Francisco and rent a loft, right, that's overlooking the water or overlooking the Bay Bridge, but that you go to San Francisco, rent a loft, and then the next day have a custom, unique chef experience and farm to table from the local, gardener society, right? Or that there's all kinds of things you can do. So this one is one that was shared on Facebook: night running in the Marin headlands, glow sticks, good beats, and plenty of big views. This is overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge, and this is just what? A few months ago, right? Complete with matching tights. So yes, you can go and rent a loft, but then you can also go and do great experiences with perfect strangers, all just because we're yearning for those immersive experiences to get back in front of people and have that one-on-one interaction. And they've found a way to exploit it in a positive way. Now, this is such a big deal that Google has started not only, so they've started to build their own. Not only their own Airbnb in Western Europe, but their own Airbnb experience version using Google in Western Europe. So it'll be fun to watch how this all plays out, right, from two big titans in the category. But isn't this fascinating that people, when given the option, will always choose something that's more immersive? This should absolutely affect how we stage our businesses. So last and very quickly, and we're going to rush through this faster than we might normally, but the team has to be involved. Right? Think of how much greater the experience would be on campus if not only did the people giving the tours and the people who are in charge of making sure that it's a good campus visit, not only were they being great and greeting people a certain way and talking about the merits of the campus, but no matter which student you talk to, they talked about it too. Right? It takes your multiple and it takes it, times thousands. And so at our center, there's 113 people responsible for the customer experience going a certain way. Because if it just boils down to those few doctors that you saw on the first slide, they can't touch every customer interaction like the rest of our team can. And so the way we do that is we stage, the only way to do it for the customers is to have great experiences for the team. Right? You can't give a Ritz-Carlton kind of experience. You can't stage a Ritz-Carlton experience if you've only had a Red Roof Inn life. And so, since this is our expectation, we take them out. We take them out to nice dinners once a month. We rent out the sledding hill in Sioux Falls because we feel like the more we stage those customer experiences for our team, and we talk about it and we unpack it and how could it have been better and how could this staff member have been better in this business, the better that they will do with their own patient experiences. So I'll give you an example that just happened yesterday. I was talking to a gentleman on a board I'm on. I was talking about how I'm really happy with the customer experience at our center and it could always be better. And as I was telling the story, another board member is in the corner and he's quiet. And I'm bragging because I do that. But he said, he was so quiet, I said, have you had an experience at our center? And he said, I have. And I knew the quietness meant I was about to receive the gift of feedback. In a way that I might not love at first. And so he said, I was at your center this summer and I didn't make an appointment or anything. I just drove up, I pulled right up. I just walked right in the front door and I asked for an appointment. I said, how'd we handle it? He said, well, your team said that you don't actually do regular eye exams. I said, well, that's true. We just do the surgery part, but did they give you any alternatives? Is that all they said? And he said, no, actually they said that the folks right next door do eye exams, or there's several others, and they'd be happy to schedule an appointment for me at those other centers. I said, well, that sounds pretty good. He said, they also asked if they could walk me over. And I said, well, that sounds pretty good. And he said, yeah, that's not the part I wanted to talk to you about. What I really wanted to talk to you about is how I was walking back out to my car, and the guy that I parked right next to had just had an experience there, and he was holding a cookie. And I said, well, okay, tell me more. And he said, well, this cookie was a big one, and it said, happy 40th wedding anniversary. And he said, can you believe this place? And I said, No. And he said, have you been a patient here? I said, well, I tried to be a patient here. I couldn't be one. He said, well, you should be one someday. These guys just gave me an anniversary gift. Today's my anniversary. But I told them on the phone 3 weeks ago that today on my appointment was my anniversary, but that my wife passed away last year. And so somebody on our phone team had spent $14 and gone out and got a cookie with happy 40th wedding anniversary, and then they all signed a card. Now that took, I don't know, 20 minutes, and by the way, they all loved it, right? So I mean, one, it made him feel like $1 million. Two, it didn't cost the organization that much. Everybody in our organization knows they have up to $100 to spend on a colleague or a patient or a customer or a vendor at any moment in time to make their day. No questions asked. Just to kind of prove the point, we just ran some numbers, and it's still, the most it's ever been in a month is $600. And so we still feel like we're not doing it enough with as much as we want to interact with our customers. And so not only is it great for that patient and the way he told the story to the gentleman who was on the board with me, but it also makes it a pretty good place to work for that employee too, when they know they've got that kind of empowerment. So this whole subsection talks about all the ways that we try to make it easy for the team members to do the right thing at the point of care. The goal of being kind of an experience economy model is that you have to make the right thing to do the easy thing to do. It has to be efficient, or inertia itself will slow it down. Listen, we all want to drive green vehicles. Nobody loves driving a gas guzzler. Nobody loves paying $5 at the pump, right? But it's just not efficient. Until it's the most efficient option, we probably won't be able to adopt it in a meaningful fashion. That's why another disruptor in Tesla is going to be so interesting to watch in this category. And so we have to make the right thing to do, the easy thing to do. And I'm rushing through these examples because I just want to share one story about the team. This is a model that we stole from the restaurant industry. But just like John DeJulius in his books, we try to make it really easy at each stage of the process to know exactly what's happening, what was expected of the team, so they can capitalize on that great customer experience. And we do that by spending time with one another, training on it day in and day out. We have a holy huddle every morning where we go through these tenets. And it makes it a real good place to work. So good, in fact, that Entrepreneur magazine in March of this year came out with an article with the 153 best corporate cultures in America. And among small, medium, and large-sized companies, we were the only one in healthcare that received that distinguished honor. And so this is something that our team notified us about during our Christmas party this last year. We didn't know what ranking we got, but we knew that we were on the list of the top 100. And so that was really fun for us to experience. So that's just kind of a little outside acknowledgement that some of the things that we work on day in and day out, it has some staying power, and it has some, there's folks from outside that notice. And so I thought I'd close before we go to questions by just kind of summarizing that not only does it bring a lot of joy and fun to work to kind of stage customer experience this way, it's also the right thing to do. And oh yeah, it's good business. Right? So our 3 points were that our consumer minds have changed, we invest more in experiences, not things, and we have to have a team mindset to deploy this properly. And then last, I just want to give you this gift from our team. This is something they just put together a few weeks ago.
Like new sunglasses, like a brand new pair of jeans. I feel like taking chances. I feel a lot like 17. I feel like windows roll down new city streets and cabs. I feel like anything can happen in life, and you take me right back when we were kids. Never thought I'd feel like this. Like when I close my eyes and don't even care if anyone sees me dancing. Like I can fly and I don't even think of touching the ground. a young junk you sat, like making big mistakes. I feel like for the first time in a long time, I am not afraid. I feel like a kid. Never thought it'd feel like this. Like when I close my eyes and don't even care if anyone sees me dancing. Like I can fly and I don't even think of touching the ground. Like a heartbeat skip, like an open page, like a one-way trip on an aeroplane. It's the way that I feel when I'm with you. Brand new. Time will always try to make us. Time will always try to make us. You remind me what I used to know. Like when I close my eyes and don't even care if anyone sees me dancing. Like I can fly and I don't even think of touching the ground. Yeah. Like a heartbeat skip, like an open page, like a one-way trip on an aeroplane. It's the way that I feel when I'm with you. Brand new.
All right, everybody. I know we're right at time, but is there any questions from the esteemed audience you have today on any of the items discussed? Pam, Tyler, Mark, any questions? Good. Well, thanks for being a good audience. I know a lot of you have to get to class, and again, we appreciate you that you'd ask us to come talk about this topic, and congratulations on your success. Thanks.
If you are a Center of Excellence in Information Systems student, we are greatly appreciative of your attendance today. I know we have a few more that are attending virtually and listen to the presentation, and we will be presenting the video again to all of our Information Systems Honor students. We do think it's a wonderful experience. We have 2 more of these leadership presentations that we're going to be providing from the Center of Excellence in Information Systems. And in addition, today we're announcing that we have 2 $500 scholarships that will be awarded to Center of Excellence in Information Systems students. So if you haven't joined and you have a cumulative GPA of 3.2 and you'd like some experiences and some incentives to maintain that GPA until you graduate with honors cords at our DSU graduation, we'd greatly encourage you to visit with us afterwards, to contact us via email, pam.roland@dsu.edu or sherry.notaboom@dsu.edu, and we would greatly appreciate your joining our organization. And the scholarships are available from admissions, financial aid, and then you will notice our scholarship application for all DSU scholarships. The due date for application is March 1st. Thank you.